Hi, quite a few people have asked me for the teardown of the Keysight EDU33212A waveform generator, 20 megahertz dual channel jobby. So let's tear it down. This will be in 4K resolution for those playing along at home. This is part of their new educational value series scopes, which we've looked at. And apparently, because I did a giveaway of quite a lot of this gear, and apparently they've due to chip-ageddon, the component shortages, they're still having problem delivering those. So yeah, there must be something they're having problems across the board, as a lot of manufacturers, and yeah, they're having problems. So sorry to the winners of those who haven't actually received them yet, but they're still on the list. So yep, once they get the parts, they'll be able to make them. Anyway, let's crack it open. It is the same form factor as the oscilloscope and the multimeter as we looked at, so they reuse all the plastics. Everything else is practically identical in them. The metalworks inside will be all the same. So anyway, a sneaky little interlude, if I may, just to plug my Odyssey channel over here, because I'm up to 53,000 followers over here. I think it'd be really cool if I got 100,000 followers on the YouTube alternative Odyssey. That would be absolutely awesome. Anyway, if you're like sick and tired of the ads on YouTube, go watch it all on Odyssey. And all my videos are there, like minutes after they appear on the YouTubes, and they're in full resolution as well. It's great then. The Odyssey community, lots of engagement in the comments and stuff like that. Absolutely fantastic. I love Odyssey, and I occasionally post exclusive videos on Odyssey as well. You won't find on my YouTube channel or any other platform I use. This is my photo spectrometer that I've got. I did a teardown of that, so go check it out. And I've got my EEVblog 2 channel on there, and my EEV Discover as well, and it's a really great platform. I'm probably doing like a third of my daily video views on Odyssey now instead of YouTube. So, and a lot of electronics creators a lot of your favorite electronics creators are on Odyssey as well. Check it out. As you can feel on the front panel here, how they've still got the two little slots there for the oscilloscope probe compensation on there. So they certainly reused the front panel there, but of course you can't reuse the buttons here. This has to be entirely different. And in the EDU series here, you can actually feel the two extra BNCs there. So yeah, the fourth channel plus the SIGGEN. Yeah, I do believe that's exactly the same metalwork, exactly the same mains interface, exactly the same metal threaded inserts here, which did have the gunk on the screws. Excellent. And probably got a same power supply. I would say, if you're going to reuse as much as possible, you would also try and reuse the power supplies, even if it's overrated between models and stuff like that. Because, generally you would design it around, if you've only got 5 and 12 volts output or something, then you'd do a plus minus 12 or whatever, then you would design your product around an existing power supply. So that remains to be seen. Let's get the metalwork off. All right, so let's lift that off, and ta-da, we're in like flint. Yeah, it's probably going to be an identical power supply. I will take the cage off that. Somebody had fun with a Celastic gun. Look at that. Oh, beauty. Oh, all right, because I've taken apart the EDU series oscilloscope, and here they are, precariously balanced. Don't try this at home, kids. I'm a professional. But yeah, as you can see, it's identical metalwork, everything else. The board's designed to fit in place like that, so there you go. For those playing along at home, that looks identical to the original 1000 that we've taken apart before, done a teardown of, and also hacked. And here is the new function gen up here. So yeah, all the chassis is the same, all the metalwork cutouts, they're all the same, everything's the same. Let me show you the power supply. And as predicted, the power supplies are absolutely identical. If I get that cable out of the way, check it out, except that the oscilloscope has a couple of black caps in here instead of green, so that's interesting. I don't know why they mixed those up. I've got no idea, but yeah, no surprises for finding identical power supplies, right? Completely swappable. They've even got the same part number, have they? I believe they would. Yeah, just different manufacturer codes on them. Now, spot the difference. Spot the difference between these. Leave it in the comments down below. There is something actually dramatically different between these two power supply assemblies. Can you spot it? Can you spot it? Leave it in the comments now down below, because I will spoil it for you after this. Can you spot it? The fans are mounted back to front. Look at this. This is the function gen here. And this is the oscilloscope. They're exactly the same brand and model fan, but one's sucking in, one's blowing out. Which is the right one? I don't know. Are they installing them just randomly on the, like, is it an actual assembly error? Or did they decide that, no, we're going to, you know, suck the air in on one of them and blow it out on the other? I don't know. Keysight, Daniel, Bueller. And the brand of cap is literally OK Cap. These caps are okay. Same branding on the output filter caps as well. They're okay too. Anyway, it's a very neat and tidy power supply assembly. And yes, the output voltages and the output cables are exactly the same. I'm sure that I could completely interchange these and it wouldn't make a difference. I could like mix up these back shells and I wouldn't even know when I put this back together. But yeah, it's got no shortage of output filtering. A TO220 is flapping around in the breeze here, but you know, someone had fun with the Scholastic gun. But you know, yeah. It actually looks like a decent layout. Keysight almost certainly didn't design this, as most companies don't. They just farm out their power supplies. But yeah, no, it looks nice. We've got a nice spade lug going down to the chassis down here. No wuckers. Everything's all heat shrunk. We've got input fuse in here. We've got a PTC there. Dewey, your X and Y class caps, or your common mode chokes, all the requisite stuff. No worries. I mean, it's only like, you know, a 30-watt power supply or something. All right, let's take a look at this board, shall we? I'm actually capturing my 4K screen this time instead of my regular 1080 screen. So let's have a squiz. You can see that we've got the Cyclone 10 FPGA in here, and no surprises for finding that. Part number for those playing along at home. There's many varieties of the Cyclone 10 series. You can pay, well, I'm not going to say peanuts, but you can pay like orders of magnitude difference in price depending on the amount of silicon and feature set in there. So I don't know what that one is, and not really that fussed. Bit weird to see the old Intel Inside symbol on there. Yeah, so anyway, that is surrounded by some memory here and up here as well. We've got our controlled impedance wiggle, yeah, traces all in here, and also going out to our DAC out here. Bloody OrphanView can't do multiple level undos. That sucks. Anyway, for those who don't know, all of these wiggle traces here, these are, of course, matched length. So when you're talking about the speeds go into DDR memory these days, and in this case go into the DAC, then, yeah, you've got to match the length of the line. So this trace that goes all the way on the outside here, that has to match, which goes further. So that's your longest one, and then your shortest one goes from, well, you know, like into here like this. So they've got to match the length there, and overall those two lengths will be matched. So your skew, your data skew, and your clock skew, and everything else, your timing is pretty matched with the distances, even with the small distance we're talking about between the chips there, which isn't much, but still it matters once you get up in speed. Yeah, so I'm not sure what speed the memory would be operating there. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, this is only a 20 megahertz bandwidth thing, so the TX DAC here, but of course you've got a 20 megahertz clock cycle. You've got to be spewing out more data than that, so the data rate is high. That's why all that stuff in there has to be matched. And the AD9747 here, that's a dual 16-bit 250 meg sample per second DAC. So as I said, yep, it's pretty quick. And then they've just got some drivers here, of course. We can go in and have a better look at those numbers there. 51661. I think these might be Intercell EL5166s. So yeah, which is now Renesas. And they're 1.4 gigahertz bandwidth current feedback amplifiers. Yeah, that'd make sense in that sort of application. And would this be some offsetting? I don't think that's local regulation. Not sure what the deal is there. Anyway, they're going into some relays and attenuator networks down there to get your various low output signal levels and whatnot. And then your extra stuff down here, these are your two output BNCs. You can see there's a bit of residue on the connectors there. They were hand soldered, so a little bit how you're doing, but it's neither here nor there. And then, of course, there's your 50 ohm output impedance there. And it looks like they have dual drivers there with 100 ohms in series each, and they parallel, looks like they're paralleling those up. So you can see them joining at the output here, and they've just got some output filter in there. You can see a couple of little chokies down in there. But yeah, that's interesting. They've paralleled those up, and you can see, look, here's the output of the attenuator network, and then that's going, and that's splitting into the two sides here. So they're paralleling those up, presumably to get extra grunt out of that. You wouldn't be getting extra, like they wouldn't be, of course you can parallel the amplifiers for reduced noise, but I don't think this is a stellar performer in that regard, so they're doing that for extra output grunt. And there's your PLL clock gen. That's an LMX2582 for those playing along at home. 10 megahertz reference there. Does this accept? No, I don't think this accepts an external 10 megahertz input. I'd have to check that. But yeah, that's the PLL clock driver for everything. But apart from that, not much else doing. And this is our calibration output here. We've got a 74HC4051 jobby for the win. Old school again, TL072, love it. Don't know what that analog devices jobby there is. This here is a ground connection. Very nice if you're designing a product like this. It's a very appreciated to designing little ground loops like that. They don't cost much, and you can put your oscilloscope probe in there, and very handy if you get in there and probing during debugging. And this here is our trigger gate burst. Well, that includes all the circuitry there. And then this is our sync output here, which is nothing. It's just got a little, like a transistor driver on the output, and that's it, because all it does is trigger output pin. That's it. No workers. And got some other op amps here, TLV274s. I don't know what they're doing. They don't seem associated with anything in particular, at least not on the top layer anyway. Meh, whatever. Just some housekeeping op amps. And then, of course, you've got all your regulation stuff up here. Good old school 7905 for your negative 5 volt regulators. 7915 up here. 7815 and 7805. So we've got plus minus 5 volt rails and plus minus 15 volt rails for the op amps, of course. Very nice. You want the headroom on the op amps. So, yeah, that's interesting because that means this is linear. So the output of the power supply, that must be not plus minus 12 volts, as I mentioned before. It must be like at least, there's got to have at least a 2 volt dropout voltage on that. So it's got to be like plus minus 18 volts or something like that would be my guess. You want to keep it down so the dissipation in those isn't much, but you know, yeah. There you go. Anyway, there's another switch-in reg there. That's probably for like a 3.3 volt. Well, there's another linear reg there. Is that another switch-in jobby? And the one that's left out. There you go. They've left out another one. I don't know, miscellaneous circuitry. But yeah, like there's not much in it. There's a Cyclone 10 FPGA, some memory, a DAC, you know, output dividers, output drivers, and then just some calibration and syncy stuff and a clock gen, and Bob's your uncle. Although, what is driving the screen? But of course, you've got to have something to run the operating system, and there's our ARM jobby there. It's an STM32H750, and it's got its own associated memory and everything else, and that it has its own PLL as well happening there. So yeah, the fuse. Half amp fuse is gone. It's gone ski. And then behind my head here, there's some unpopulated circuitry. So that would have been, and including a relay and stuff for what, external gate output or something like, I don't know, external. No, that might have been like No, because it's got a relay. I was going to say like an external 10 megahertz input or something like that, but no, I don't think so. Another unpopulated device there with a power pad on the bottom. It's got a thermal pad on the bottom. I've got another test connector here. Not sure what's doing there. This would be going off to the touchscreen, wouldn't it? And anyway, so this would have like video driver and everything built in. That looks like another switch mode controller that's doing something. Analog VDD, is it? Okay. Power and fan connectors. Nothing much doing. There's your real-time clock. That's your 32 kilohertz clock crystal there, and that'd be that BQ32002 would be an RTC clock chip. And there's your battery backup, of course. Aha, there's your video connection. That's on the bottom side of the board there. You can see some matched length traces going on in there as well. And then you've got all series resistor terminators. So that's, yeah, there's got a, I'm not going to get the board out to flip it on the other side. I don't think there's a huge amount there, but that would be the surface mount LCD connector going off. So this would be the front panel over here. That'd be like the front panel and controls and stuff. So there you go. I just took a bunch of high-res photos and didn't decide to do the 4K screen capture because my I could have done this under my Teardown microscope, of course, but that's only 1080p. So yeah, if I want to be able to, and I don't really need to zoom in on stuff. But there you go. That's it. It's all pretty basic stuff. So there you go. That's a teardown of the new whatever part number. I can never remember these bloody part numbers. Why can't they give them something decent? I don't know. Anyway, it's some part number. 20 meg function gen. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. As always, discuss down below. Catch you next time.